Alright. Master the art of insinuation. No persuader can hope to succeed without mastering the language and art of insinuation. Slips of the tongue, apparently inadvertent sleep on it comments, alluring references, statements for which you quickly apologize. All of these have immense insinuating power. They get under people's skin like a poison and take on a life of their own. The key to succeeding with your insinuations is to make them when your targets are at their most relaxed or distracted so that they are not aware of what is happening. Polite banter is often the perfect front for this. People are thinking about what they will say next or are so absorbed in their own thoughts. Your insinuations will barely register, which is how you want it. There's too little mystery in the world. Too many people say exactly what they feel or want. We yearn for something enigmatic, for something to feed our fantasies. Because of the lack of suggestion and ambiguity in daily life, the person who uses them suddenly seems to have something alluring and full of promise. Daily law: insinuation is the supreme means of influencing people. Hints, suggestions, and insinuations bypass people's natural resistance, make everything suggestive. That's from the art of seduction. Master the art of insinuation. This is true. This is true stories. Let's see, how about this one? Where's that in this one? Alright. How about this? Reversal of perspective. The word realist often comes with some negative connotation. Realists, according to conventional wisdom, can be practical to a fault. They often lack a feel for the finer, higher things in life. Taken too far, such types can be cynical, manipulative, and Machiavellian. They stand in contrast to dreamers, people of high imagination who inspire us with their ideals or divert us with their fantastical creations. This concept can come from looking at the world through the lens of fear. It is time we reverse this perspective and see dreamers and realists in their true light. The dreamers, those who misread the actual state of affairs and act upon their emotions, are often the source of the greatest mistakes in history. The wars that are not thought out, disasters that are not foreseen. Realists, on the other hand, are the real inventors and innovators. They are men and women of imagination. Their imagination is in close contact with the environment, with reality. They are empirical scientists, writers with a sharp understanding of human nature, or leaders who guide us thoughtfully through a crisis. They are strong enough to see the world as it is, including their own personal inadequacies. Let us take this further. The real poetry and beauty in life comes from an intense relationship with reality in all its aspects. Realism is, in fact, the ideal we must aspire to, the highest point of human rationality. And then there's a quote by James Baldwin. People who cling to their delusions find it difficult, if not impossible, to learn anything worth learning. A people under the necessity of creating themselves must examine everything and soak up learning the way the roots of a tree soak up water. I agree. Yep. No added benefit to having your head in the clouds. Does you no good. I had to learn that the hard way. When you think that way, and like for instance, you try to see the best in others, you miss all the actual aspects of who they are. All right. Guess it's time to go. Hopefully all my routes are available and I don't have to make any evasive maneuvers. That's better fun. Have a quick drink of whatever's in here. I think this is the coffee. Yep. That's good. Alright. Let's hit the road. Yep. You have to be super realistic nowadays. Especially because it's so easy for everybody to put on a front. I mean, everybody has social media accounts that show the absolute best aspects of their life. No one shows all their flaws and defects. And everybody uses their words to deceive. I've said that a million times. Humans are the only ones that can smile and be friendly directly to you, while inside completely hating you. And it's pretty wild when you realize something like that so late in life, like I did. You find out a bunch of people are not who they say they are. It's like a reality check. That's funny. Let's have more coffee. It's funny, I didn't get to finish it, but I was in the middle of a podcast with Hunter Biden and Tucker Carlson, and who the media says he was, just some drug addict. Because you didn't really hear much from him directly during all the time that he got caught doing all kinds of weird stuff in his laptop and pictures of himself smoking illicit substances. That's all you really heard about. And of course, the media just left it at that and didn't tell you much of anything else. And there wasn't anybody else really giving him a platform to talk on. And I've seen one full podcast with him, which was fantastic. And by the time it was over, I was like, man, I like this guy. He's got his issues like everybody else. No one's immune from that. But once you hear him in a long form conversation talking, he's articulate, he's thoughtful. I'm like, this guy's nothing like the media had portrayed him to be. And now I'm in the middle of a conversation with him and Tucker Carlson. And the same thing. I'm like, he's got something to say. He's not a dumb guy. And I think that kind of falls in line with what I just read, to be honest. Like that, stop. I think in terms of like, the media has your mind caught up in the architecture of its own dream. They want you thinking and perceiving things in a specific way that isn't necessarily realistic. And then I guess the flip side to that is like, he could be just playing a part also, like in these conversations that I'm hearing with him. he be putting on a false front. For some reason, I don't think he is. I mean, all the worst aspects of his life was put out there in the media, anyways. It's like he's not denying any of it. I guess I don't know, but it's interesting to hear him talk. So I just listen. That's what I tell people, especially when I tell them to like listen to stuff that I know they don't necessarily agree with. I tell them, I'm not telling you to believe what you're gonna hear, but you should hear it. So at least you have all the information, then you just decide from there. It's the only thing you can do. Just sit on it, and see what happens. Alright, so my on ramp to the 405 is okay. Good to go there. Now, as long as I can get off where I need to near work, good to go. Yeah, I like that last couple paragraphs I read about the difference between the dreamers and the realists. In order to function properly in life, you have to be securely anchored in reality and see things in a brutally honest way. Because your mind has a way of like, maybe I'm just speaking for me on this, I guess. My mind has a way of like trying to sugarcoat, I guess is a good phrase. Certain people's personalities or certain situational realities. My mind wants to like see the best in everything, I guess, but it's just not. That's not a helpful way to be. Because really, what you're doing or what I do is I tend to lie to myself about people, places, and things. I guess it's a balance because if you see nothing but the negative and everything, you get super like nihilist kind of negative mind space, and that's not helpful either. So you have to kind of like tiptoe down the center of it. I remember like one of the last things he said in the interview that I was listening to is kind of like alluding to like everybody's kind of like addicted in some way to something. I mean, to be honest, every single addiction is the same. People just tend to like look down upon drug addicts while at the same time like justifying their own addictions. And he said like everybody's walking around with like a bag of heroin in their pocket with these phones. That's literally what those phones do, is trigger dopamine receptors in the brain as you're scrolling. And if you want to go back to that page about being a dreamer and a realist, not seeing like phone addiction or like gossip addiction or like media addiction in general as on the same level as like drug addiction. That's the dreamer's mindset. The realist looks at it the exact same way. And to be quite honest, like the drug addicts, at least they're being real about their addiction. That's like the most raw version of the addiction. It's like they're trying to feel better. They're trying to get their mind off of something. And it's just a quick shortcut to do that. It's the exact same thing as holding a phone in front of your face. Your mind is focused on something other than you. I think really that's all addiction is like avoiding like looking at yourself brutally in the mental mirror, coming to terms with all that, whatever it is. Even if it's like the boredom of your own life. Your life should be like the most exciting thing happening. And you should be so attentive to that nothing can take your attention away. But I think people's lives have become so mundane and so agonizingly boring, or just unhappy, that there's like a level of unhappiness that they don't want to squarely face. That's how they get their attention is better focused somewhere else. Otherwise, they would have to tear their whole life down and start over like I did. And I would say 99% of people aren't ready to do that. Or it hasn't even occurred to them that's something they should do. Because that is not a comfortable position to be in. I know for me, I can only speak for me. I stopped caring about my life. I didn't even give a shit anymore. So that's why I did what I did. And that's what led to me just hitting the reset button. I didn't know that was going to happen. But somewhere in my mind, I'd stopped caring even if it did. I was like, whatever. I'd become resigned to the fact that, fuck it, I guess this is my life. And it's not going to get any better than this. And bottoms up. So what happened with me is when I came back, the act of trying to go back to normal life was the act of me looking myself in the mirror, because I had like these memories of me from before, and I was able to like try to engage with that again, but being a different person. I hadn't even realized that is what happened. So it was like strange to like try to re-engage and not make sense. Like, it's even hard to try to describe the whole process of what I went through. Because the words fail. It's something you actually have to experience. It's like trying to explain to somebody like something that's so fantastically wild that you only have to experience it to understand it. Like maybe like something like, I don't even know how to put this into like a metaphorical or like make an analogy that makes sense. Like something most people don't experience, like maybe let's say skydiving, jumping out of a plane and skydiving. Like to hear people explain what that feels like, the words fail because the experience has to be had. the words can't do what the experience can do in terms of, of like constructing that feeling of doing it. Because the words are cerebral, right? I guess so. The feeling of actually skydiving is different than the description of skydiving. Or any like amazing experience that has to be felt, I guess. And it was a pretty amazing experience to do what I did to myself. So like remember these things that you love or you used to really enjoy. Like you used to get a real sense of enjoyment out of certain things, and then like one day you wake up and you go to do that thing, whatever it is, and you're like I remember loving doing this. Why this is crazy. I don't feel anything right now from this. Pretty wild. Like for me, I guess the equal equivalent, if I had to like put it into like context of something I love today, is like, I mean, aside from my woman, but I don't even want to use that as an analogy. Let's just say dogs. Like I absolutely love dogs. Like, aside from my personal relationship with my woman, the only other thing probably that I love almost as much as that is dogs. I get so much enjoyment out of them. I couldn't imagine going to work one day on Sundays when I go to my dog job and walking into a pack of dogs and be like I don't care about this at all. Like there's no get no enjoyment out of this at all. That would be so weird. That's what happened with me, like with my reset, with things like making music, and the only thing that stuck was like reading books, like like absorbing information in that way. That's one of the things that actually like held for me, like reading books. But the type of books changed. That's I used to like reading a lot of fiction, like these made up stories, things that are just like inconsequential. I can't read books like that anymore. It has to be something of substance, like what I read every morning when I get in my car. It has to be information like that. That's why I can't sit down and watch a movie. I can sit down and watch a documentary, or I can sit down and watch like a long form podcast with a really interesting guest. That's completely captivating for me. But like a fictional movie or like a fiction book, that zero interest in that. And that's what that's what was introduced me to reading, was all that. But I still love to read. And I guess that's what changed me from having like the dreamer's mindset to like the realist mindset, was that reset. I guess that's what like fiction is. When it comes to like movies and like fiction books, that's like a dreamer. You need the dreamer's mindset in order to have that imaginary world come to life in your head. I think I lived in an imaginary world long enough. Like, everything around me was imaginary. all the people, and it was all imaginary. And now I'm firmly seated in the real world. And to be honest, the dreamer's world is way easier to navigate. It's a very cozy and comforting little world to exist in. And you almost envy like the life of a dreamer because they don't have to deal with the realities of the real world. It doesn't even hit their radar. That's why when I like tell people certain things that I hear on a podcast or read in the book, or like if I like verify some crazy like conspiracy tinfoil hat shit, I end up looking it up. I'm like, oh man, that's true. That actually happened. Then I start telling people, and it doesn't. The way it hits me, like the crazy, like, oh fuck, that was real. That actually happened. And you tell them, and they're like, it doesn't even register to them really. They can't process it. Like the profound gravity of the information doesn't hit them like it should, because their minds aren't they're not in that gear yet to be able to hit that speed. Because there's like certain things that you come to find out in terms of like the world and information, like COVID, for example. Everything that's going on with Fauci right now in the news. Like my dad had texted me. I guess he saw all the stuff that's going on with Fauci, and that's pretty much verifying everything that I had come to find out about that whole period of time and shots and all that bullshit. My dad texted me like it was kind of like a good job for not falling for all that, but even he's coming to have the full realization that yeah, that everything that we were saying was true. All that shit was a bunch of lies. But back when I was coming across this information and telling people, even telling people to look it up, they don't do it. It's like it's like with a dog. I've seen this happen with dogs. Like I'll tell it like when I'm at work with the dogs, I'll tell a dog to go lay in its bed, and I'll point to the bed, and it'll look at my finger. It'll look at me pointing, but it won't look to where I'm pointing. Some dogs are smart enough; they get it. I'll tell them go, and they'll know what I'm saying. But most of the dogs, they'll look at my hand, and that's what it's like trying to open people's eyes with the truth. Like they're looking at my hand, they're not looking to where my hand's pointing. That's probably the best way I could put it. I think I saw Magic Mountain Parkway was closed. I hope my exit's open. Boy, this is gonna be a pain in the ass. We'll see. Just hang out with this guy. What does it say? Scales closed, so that's not good. Shit. Damn it. Well, I couldn't have got off on Magic Mountain. That was closed too. That would have been the exit. So let's see. It'd be nice if they said my exit was closed if it is. I certainly didn't see a sign. Alright, that says lane closed. Yeah. Let's see. Looks like we might be okay. I think we are. So that would be my advice to people out there, especially if you're like a young parent or have young kids. Do your best to try to keep their minds anchored in the real world. And that whole thing about being a dreamer is a bunch of bullshit. There's no advantage to being a dreamer. Be a forward thinker. Think ahead. All this dreaming shit, that's why they call it that. That's why they use that phrase, dreamer. This shit ain't real. That's probably another reason why they don't like Andrew Tate, because this whole school is called the real world. And that's what he pretty much talks about. He uses that term, the matrix, a lot. Try to keep your mind. That's the same thing. That term, the matrix, as like being in a dream. But this dream, the matrix is a dream that's purposefully constructed to keep you asleep, keep you unknowingly subservient. And Andrew Tate's so effective with his words, I think that's the main reason why they had to shut him down. He had a very jarring way of waking people up with how he talks. And they can't have that. They need more dreamers. Even that Martin Luther King speech, I have a dream. Terrible phrasing. Should have been, I have a vision. I have a forward-looking vision for the future. But all that I have a dream shit, that played right into their hands. That's probably why they were fine with him giving that speech. Like they're sitting there like yes, stay asleep. Keep on dreaming. Alrighty. I have arrived. And oops. Alright. That's why I think they propped up that term woke. Stay woke, which is like a ghetto version of staying awake. But if you want to be completely accurate with what woke means, woke is the past tense of the word awake. When you're staying woke, you're not awake. You're in the past. It's a corruption of logic and reason. to stay woke. Everybody fell for that. All right. Have a great day.